Hello, welcome back. I've filled up my tabs again from some Act 1 farming. Got a little over 90 items here to go through, so hopefully this is going to be a little more streamlined and less blabbering. So let's get started with the first set. All, again, level 62 or 63, unless it's a amulet ring, the ones that max out at 62. So I included 61 for those. Okay, 12% chance to block. Nothing going on for us there. 2 primary stats, nothing else really to warrant saving that piece. Horrible damage, it's not going to cut it. You've got competing primaries, no resist all, no vitality, no movement speed. Pretty bad boots. Horrible DPS. Even worse. I was thinking I should try and make a worst of prize through this and try and keep the one piece that's the worst winner. So it's got some decent gold find, but not enough to really sell. I'd need 24% or 25. Three primaries and nothing else, which means it essentially has one affix on it. 19 blocks, some intelligence and some armor, and a demon hunter skill. So very competitive, just doesn't know what it wants to be. Monk weapon with no dexterity and no other important stats. Very low damage dagger. Very low polearm. Not quite enough on this one-hander, especially considering that there's no sexy stats on it. Chance to fear is not going to cut it. Strength and vitality and a pickup, but strength roll is really low. There's no resist all, so it's not going to be enough. You need at least a primary vitality and resist all, or a really other sexy stat like maybe a really high fire or physical resist, or double sockets, or a big life regen affix. Lifesteal and some strength, but just not enough weapon DPS on that sword. 480 on a two-hander. Lovely. Just unremarkable so far. Not too bad. There's strength and put like a 70 critical damage gem in here. Worth checking the auction house for. Triple primary stats and some magic find. It's not going to cut it. If it had vitality or resist all, this could have a shot because of the magic find. You'd have an offensive and a defensive stat and some magic find. It's the type of gear that someone's looking for. If they're going to sacrifice an affix for magic find, at least they are still maintaining some offense and defense. Really low dex roll and some vitality. Just worthless pants. If that dexterity, even if that dexterity had 150 on it, wouldn't be worth it because you're still only getting 2 real affixes. And generally nowadays people are looking for at least 3 affixes plus a couple sockets for a little bit of customization. Personally, I'm looking for my primary vitality, an individual resist, and resist all. And then trying to get as high on the primary stat roll as I can for pants. Nothing to speak of here. Double primary stats and your obligatory crit for those bracers. Strength, vitality, resist all, but the resist all is really low and there's no crit chance, which everyone wants on their gloves, so this isn't going to cut it either. Low two-hander. Even lower two-hander. Oh, that one went up again. We're going in the right direction. Resist all and strength, but no movement speed, no vitality. Fairly low resist all roll. Horrible. I've been trying to figure out which might be the absolute worst affix to have on a weapon, and ignores durability loss is pretty much tied with a couple others. I'm still not quite sure which would be the worst. So this, this DPS numbers, like in the mid 600s, this is like right on the cusp of whether it can possibly be saved by having great affix rolls or not. If this had natural crit plus a socket, and then these strength and vitality numbers, it would have a real shot. But because it only has a single socket, there's really no chance of it having. If this was 721, and these other affixes, might have a shot. But I'll keep this and just kind of pull up these numbers in the auction house to give an example. So this whole tab sucked. Nothing worth anything here. Since the last video, I sold another like 7 million something. I think it was a pair of gloves or a pair of pants. So getting really close to 40 million back up liquid, but I still have another 30 or so out on loan. So for just under 2 weeks in Inferno, it's getting pretty rich pretty quick. So it's what I like to see. Okay, high resist all, and then triple primary stats. So that's a waste. That's a shame. If that dex was something else and the strength was something else, but if wishes were fishes. But it does always hurt more to see a half good item than a all bad item. That stings quite a bit more. So pretty decent life on hit, but that's all it has. 975, the only way that's going to be acceptable is if you had a huge amount of crit damage and then that life on hit in addition. Too low to matter, but it's got really nice natural crit plus a socket plus vitality plus a little strength plus lifesteal. Ugh, this is what I'm talking about. Just wonderful affixes, and then the numbers just not quite enough. I'm not 100% positive on what's required for like a dual wielding and offhand. If what the cutoff really is for the DPS, I believe it's like they don't want to go below mid 500s, 550 to 600. I think that's kind of their cutoff on how low they want to go, and then make up for it with this could be 165 critical hit damage. But I'll look into that. I need to learn that. Two-hander with 600 just isn't going to work. But again, natural crit plus a socket. This is what you want to see. This is what sells. It's almost become mandatory in terms of what's selling right now. People want over 100% crit damage on their weapons. Everything else, they're just, oh, but only if 500. Not gonna do it. It's got a little fire resist and a little armor, which are nice little rolls, but the primary and the vitality rolls are quite low, and there's nothing else. There's no third main stat. Horrible. All three primaries and cold resistance, which would be the worst. ton of intelligence and 11% block. That's pretty bad. That's getting close to the worst item so far. Strength, vitality, fire resistance, life, and armor. That's pretty sweet for a fresh 60. It's got a lot of synergistic stats. You know, they're not incredibly sexy, they're not high rolls, but to get all 5 affixes to be beneficial to a single character, that's pretty decent. Sure, I can get a decent amount for that. Worth an auction house slot. Crit, resist all, and what's going to be roughly 23 weapon damage average, and a little bit of physical resist as a bonus. This could probably sell. The resist all, if that was a standard roll in the 50s, I'd have no problem selling this. But as is, it's going to be a squeaker, so we'll look it up and we'll see. Really nice roll on Magic Find, but the rest of the stats just really don't know what it wants to be. 5.5 weapon DPS is not going to be intriguing to most people. And then you've got a little defensive affix and then an offensive affix. And it's just split down the middle on everything. Is it Magic Find? Is it defensive? Is it offensive? But I'm interested to see what the 35 range on Magic Find is going to be on amulets this week. I haven't been finding amulets at all. This one's a little better. Crit, and at least it's got a strong primary stat, so at least we've narrowed down that Wizards and Witch Doctors are our customer base. But Thorns isn't really going to help with that. But again, we can compare those two. 31's quite a bit lower than 35, though. I think Magic Finding, if somebody's looking for an amulet, they're going to filter out a low 30s. So here we've got a nice dex roll. Vitality, a low resist all, unfortunately, but you also got a bonus resist, which is probably the 3rd best. Physical, fire, arcane. So we'll give these a look up. When I look these up, all I wouldn't even enter a value for resist all, so that you can get those really low presence rolls. Nothing to see here. Move along. Ugh. I get so excited when I see something in the 800s and then I realize it's a 2-hand. Triple primary stats. It's really unfortunate. Really nice life on hit, intelligence and vitality, and some arcane power. So really decent affixes, but numbers are just too low. 760 for a one-hand is approaching the acceptable, the sellable range, but the stats on it just aren't worth anything. The only way you're going to get something below 800 to sell is if you've got some crit damage on it, or an even better combination of attack speed, life on hit, and a primary stat. Low two-hand or bow with intelligence. Nothing to see here. No resist all, no vitality, no crit. Same deal. You've got your crit, but then you've lost your you've lost at least the physical resistance. So again, on gloves, you're really looking for a primary and vitality or resist all. Those can fairly be interchangeable if it has critical hit and crit damage. Everyone's pretty much wanting hit damage and chance plus a primary. As more people gear up, it's just the nature of a gear find with this large of a population, and